In 1948, a 13-year-old girl married a 21-year-old man in the backwoods of Kentucky. By 19, she'd have 6 children. By 30, she'd be one of country music's biggest stars. Loretta Lynn's marriage to Oliver Doolittle Lynn was the inspiration behind her biggest hits. Songs about cheating, fighting, and standing by your man. But what fans didn't know was just how autobiographical those songs really were. The coal miner's daughter spent decades hiding the darkest truths about her marriage. Truths that would have shocked even her most devoted fans. Loretta Webb was born in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky in 1932, the second of 8 children in a coal mining family so poor that their home had newspaper walls to keep out the wind. By the time she was 13, she had already lived a lifetime of hardship, helping to raise her younger siblings and working alongside her mother to keep the family afloat. It was at a pie social in Butcher Hollow where she first met Oliver Doolittle Lynn, a charming, handsome 21-year-old just back from serving in the Army during World War II. Do, as she called him, paid $5 for Loretta's pie, a small fortune in those days, and was immediately smitten with the young girl. "I was looking at him because I had never seen anybody that purty," Loretta would later recall. Within a month of their meeting, they were married on January 10, 1948. Loretta wore a dress her mother made from a curtain and had no idea what marriage even meant. "I was 13 years old," she admitted decades later. "I went from daddy to do. I never was free." The newlyweds didn't stay in Kentucky long. Shortly after their wedding, Doolittle took his child bride across the country to Custer, Washington, where he'd found work logging. For Loretta, it was a traumatic separation from everything she'd ever known. "When we left Kentucky, I thought my heart would burst," she wrote in her autobiography. "I was leaving my family for the first time. I cried all the way to Washington." In Washington, the reality of her situation quickly became apparent. She was alone in a strange place with a man she barely knew, who expected her to be a wife in every sense of the word. By 14, she was pregnant with their first child. By 15, she was a mother. And by 19, she had 4 children, including a set of twins. These early years were marked by extreme poverty and isolation. While Doolittle worked, Loretta was left alone in their small house, caring for babies, with no friends, no family, and no support system. She was still a child herself, yet responsible for a growing family. But perhaps most shocking was how quickly the charming man who had courted her revealed a darker side. Doolittle's drinking began early in their marriage, and with it came unpredictable behavior that would set the tone for decades to come. For decades, the story of Loretta Lynn's early marriage was accepted as fact. She was 15 when she wed Doolittle Faramo, young by modern standards but not unheard of in rural Appalachia in the 1940s. This narrative appeared in her 1976 autobiography, Coal Miner's Daughter, was portrayed in the 1980 Oscar-winning film of the same name, and repeated in countless interviews throughout her career. But in 2012, the Associated Press made a startling discovery while researching Loretta's background. Her birth certificate and marriage license told a different story. Loretta Webb was born on April 14, 1932, and married Doolittle Lynn on January 10, 1948, making her just 13 years old on her wedding day, not 15 as she had claimed. When confronted with this evidence, Loretta's team initially pushed back, but eventually the country star herself acknowledged the truth. "I'm trying to think how I put that," she said in an interview. "I was married when I was 13. I had to lie because they wouldn't let you get married." This revelation cast her entire early life in a new light. What had seemed like a young but consensual marriage was revealed to be something far more troubling. A child bride, legally unable to consent, married to a man 8 years her senior. Why did Loretta maintain this fiction for so long? Some biographers suggest it was partly to protect Doolittle from potential legal consequences, as marrying a 13-year-old would have been illegal even in 1948 Kentucky. Others believe it was to make her story more palatable to the public and the Nashville establishment. The age deception wasn't the only detail Loretta altered about her early life. She also frequently claimed she was 14 when her first child was born, when in reality she was 15. These small adjustments created a narrative that was slightly less shocking while still preserving the essence of her remarkable journey from child bride to country music royalty. If you're looking at my life through my songs, you're not going to see the whole picture. Loretta once said this in an interview, but the irony is that her songs actually revealed more about her marriage than she ever admitted in public. Hits like Don't Come Home a Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, Fist City, and You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man weren't just clever country lyrics. They were thinly veiled autobiographical accounts of life with Doolittle Lynn. Doolittle's alcoholism was perhaps the most consistent challenge in their marriage. He would often disappear for days on drinking binges, returning home drunk and demanding intimacy, the exact scenario described in Don't Come Home a Drinkin', which became Loretta's first #1 hit in 1967. In her later years, Loretta became more forthcoming about the physical abuse she endured. "He never hit me one time that I didn't hit him back twice," she claimed, painting their violent encounters as mutual combat rather than domestic abuse. But those close to the couple tell a different story. "Do would slap her around," revealed Loretta's longtime friend and fellow country star, Patsy Cline's widower, Charlie Dick. "She put up with it. She had to. She didn't have any choice." This reality was a far cry from the feisty, take-no-prisoners persona Loretta projected in her music. Yet paradoxically, it was Doolittle who bought Loretta her first guitar, a $17 Harmony, and encouraged her to start performing. "You're just as good or better as most of them girls that are singing and making money. So let's make us some money," he told her. This contradictory support, pushing her career forward while simultaneously undermining her autonomy, became the defining paradox of their troubled relationship. If there's one theme that runs through Loretta Lynn's music more consistently than any other, it's confronting unfaithful men. Songs like You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man, Fist City, and Your Squaw Is on the Warpath weren't just fictional, they were Loretta's real-life responses to Doolittle's constant infidelity. Doolittle's affairs were numerous and barely concealed. He would openly flirt with other women, sometimes right in front of Loretta. One particularly painful incident occurred at a local honky-tonk where Doolittle was dancing with another woman. Loretta, watching from the sidelines, was so enraged that she confronted the woman directly, an encounter that would later inspire Fist City. In her autobiography, Loretta admitted, "Do would have run around on me if I'd stayed home all the time. He did anyway." Rather than suffering in silence, she channeled her pain into her songwriting, creating anthems of female empowerment that resonated with women across America who were dealing with similar situations. What's remarkable is how Loretta transformed these painful experiences into commercial success. You Ain't Woman Enough reached #2 on the country charts in 1966, while Fist City went all the way to #1 in 1968. Her personal heartbreak became the foundation for her professional triumph, though the irony was surely not lost on her. One of the most staggering aspects of Loretta Lynn's early life was the rapid pace at which she became a mother. By the time she was 19 years old, she had given birth to 4 children. And by 20, she had 6, including a set of twins. This wasn't just unusual, it was physically and emotionally overwhelming for a teenager who was still practically a child herself. Loretta's first child, Betty Sue, was born when she was just 15. Jack Benny followed when she was 16, and Ernest Ray when she was 17. By 19, she had given birth to her daughter, Sissy. Then at 20, she delivered twins Peggy and Patsy, named after her close friend, Patsy Cline. The physical toll of 6 pregnancies in such a short time was immense. Loretta had no access to modern health care, living in rural poverty during most of these years. She once recalled giving birth to one of her children while Doolittle was passed out drunk in the next room, unable to take her to a hospital. Beyond the physical challenges, the emotional and financial burden of raising 6 children while trying to launch a music career created nearly impossible circumstances. "I was having babies and taking care of a house and trying to write songs," Loretta later reflected. "I look back now and wonder how I did it all." The children witnessed their parents' troubled relationship firsthand. In interviews, they've spoken about the complex dynamic between Loretta and Doolittle, the fighting, the drinking, and the infidelity, but also moments of love and support. Their daughter Patsy once said, "They fought hard, but they loved hard too." Tragically, Loretta would outlive 2 of her children. Her son Jack drowned in 1984 while trying to ford a river on horseback, and Betty Sue died from complications of emphysema in 2013. These losses added yet another layer of hardship to a life already marked by struggle. Despite everything, Loretta's identity as a mother remained central to her sense of self. Even as her career took off, she insisted on bringing her children on tour when possible, refusing to be separated from them for long periods. This determination to be present for her children, despite the demands of her career and the challenges of her marriage, speaks volumes about her character and resilience. For decades, Loretta Lynn presented a carefully crafted public image that both revealed and concealed the truth about her marriage. On stage and in interviews, she was the feisty country girl who wouldn't take any nonsense from her man, a persona that resonated deeply with female fans who saw her as a voice for their own struggles. But this image, while rooted in truth, was also a strategic simplification of a much more complex reality. In public, Loretta often spoke about Doolittle with a mixture of exasperation and affection. "Do was a good man and a hard worker," she would say. "He just had his problems." She would tell humorous stories about their fights and his drinking, transforming painful experiences into entertaining anecdotes that endeared her to audiences. The 1980 biopic Coal Miner's Daughter, starring Sissy Spacek as Loretta and Tommy Lee Jones as Doolittle, further cemented this sanitized version of their relationship in the public imagination. While the film didn't completely shy away from Doolittle's drinking and temper, it portrayed their marriage as ultimately loving and supportive, with Doo as the driving force behind Loretta's success. Behind closed doors, however, the reality was far darker. Friends and family members witnessed behavior that went well beyond the charming rascal image Doolittle maintained in public. Fellow country star Tammy Wynette once recalled seeing Doolittle verbally abuse Loretta so severely that she broke down crying backstage before a performance. The question that haunts many who learn about Loretta Lynn's marriage is simple. Why did she stay with Doolittle for nearly 50 years, until his death in 1996? The answer reveals much about both Loretta's personal psychology and the social realities of her time. First, there were practical considerations. Married at 13 with no education or job skills, Loretta had few options for supporting herself and her children if she left Doolittle. Economic dependency was a powerful force keeping women in unhappy marriages during this era, especially those from poor backgrounds like Loretta. Then there was the cultural context. Divorce carried a heavy stigma in mid-20th century America, particularly in the conservative world of country music. As Loretta's star rose, leaving her husband might have damaged not just her personal reputation, but her professional one as well. But beyond these external factors, there was something more complex at work, a genuine emotional bond that defied simple explanation. "I put up with it because of 6 kids," she once said, "and I loved him and he loved me." This wasn't just public posturing. Those close to the couple confirmed that despite everything, there was a deep connection between them. Doolittle was Loretta's first and only love, the man who had known her since she was a child. "He pushed me all the way," Loretta acknowledged. "He thought I was something special when I was really nothing, and if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't be here today." This gratitude, complicated as it was, formed another link in the chain that bound her to him. What makes Loretta Lynn's music so enduring isn't just her distinctive voice or catchy melodies. It's the raw honesty with which she transformed her personal struggles into universal anthems. Her catalog stands as a remarkable musical autobiography, documenting the realities of her troubled marriage in a way that was revolutionary for its time. In an era when female country artists were expected to sing about heartbreak with demure resignation, Loretta brought a confrontational edge to her music. "You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man" wasn't just a song, it was a direct challenge to one of Doolittle's mistresses. When she sang "Don't Come Home a-Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind," she was setting boundaries with her alcoholic husband in a way she perhaps couldn't in real life. These weren't just songs, they were acts of resistance. Through her music, Loretta reclaimed power in a relationship where she often had none. She couldn't stop Doolittle from drinking or cheating, but she could turn those painful experiences into hit records that resonated with millions of women facing similar challenges. Beyond the songs about marital strife, Loretta broke new ground with controversial topics like birth control, the pill, double standards for men and women, rated X, and the hardships of growing up in poverty, coal miner's daughter. She brought women's perspectives to the forefront of country music at a time when the genre was dominated by male voices and concerns. What's particularly remarkable is how Loretta maintained her authenticity while achieving massive commercial success. Between 1966 and 1976, she charted 16 #1 singles and was named the Country Music Association's Female Vocalist of the Year 4 times. Her 1976 autobiography, Coal Miner's Daughter, became a New York Times bestseller and was adapted into an Academy Award-winning film. Through it all, she never lost touch with the experiences that shaped her music. Even as she performed in rhinestone-studded gowns on the Grand Ole Opry stage, she remained the coal miner's daughter from Butcher Hollow, a woman whose songs gave voice to the struggles of ordinary women across America. "I'm proud of being part of women's liberation," Loretta once said, though she never considered herself a feminist in the political sense. "I write about women because I'm a woman, and I know more about being a woman than being a man." Loretta Lynn passed away on October 4, 2022, at the age of 90, leaving behind a musical legacy that spans 6 decades, 60 albums, and countless hit songs. But beyond the impressive statistics and accolades, what remains most compelling about Loretta is the contradiction at the heart of her story. A woman who publicly challenged the patriarchal norms of her time, while privately enduring a marriage that embodied those very norms. The truth about Loretta's marriage to Doolittle forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the queen of country music. The fiery, independent woman who warned other women she'd take them to Fist City if they looked at her man was the same woman who stayed in an abusive, unfaithful marriage for nearly 50 years. The outspoken advocate for women's autonomy in songs like The Pill was married at 13 to a man 8 years her senior, in a union that began with an inherent power imbalance she could never fully overcome. These contradictions don't diminish Loretta's legacy, they enrich it. They remind us that human beings are complex, that survival often requires compromise, and that art can be a powerful vehicle for expressing truths that can't be spoken directly. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Loretta's story is how she transformed her pain into power. The very experiences that could have broken her, the child marriage, the abuse, the infidelity, became the raw material for songs that changed country music forever and gave voice to millions of women who saw their own struggles reflected in hers. In her final years, Loretta seemed to make peace with the complexities of her life and marriage. "I miss him so much," she said of Doolittle years after his death. "He was my biggest fan and my best friend." This wasn't denial or romanticization. It was an acknowledgement that even the most troubled relationships contain moments of genuine connection and love. Ultimately, Loretta Lynn's story transcends the simple narratives we often impose on public figures. She was neither just a victim nor just a survivor. She was a woman who lived a remarkable life on her own terms, despite circumstances that might have crushed someone with less resilience and talent. As we listen to her music today, we hear not just the voice of a country music legend, but the voice of a woman who told her truth the best way she knew how. 3 chords and the truth, as the old saying goes. And in doing so, she changed country music and the lives of countless women forever.